Discover the incredible heartwarming legacy of London's policing. An inspiring journey of change. Jamie Becker stood at the edge of Maplewood's main street, her heart pounding against her chest like a drum echoing in an empty hall. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that danced across the cracked pavement. Once vibrant storefronts now lay dormant, their windows dusty and forlorn, whispering the stories of a thriving past. With every breath, she could feel the weight of her father's badge resting on her shoulders, heavy with expectation. As the daughter of Officer Tom Becker, she was caught in a tug-of-war between her father's devotion to the law and the aching longing for the town's heart to heal. Maplewood seemed haunted, both by its faded glory and the widening gap between its people and the police meant to protect them. Jamie watched silently as her father faced his own crisis, a man who had dedicated his life to the badge yet sensed that his rigid authority was failing the community he loved. Maybe they both needed change. That night, inspiration struck. "A community festival," she exclaimed, envisioning laughter and connection bridging the chasms of misunderstanding. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she pored over plans and flyers, determined to rally the town. "This can bring us together, Dad," she said, bright-eyed and hopeful. But her father's weary gaze told her everything. Skepticism trickled down his cheeks, muffled concerns for his daughter danced in the air like ghosts. Days later, the festival arrived, a mere echo of what she had dreamed. As Jamie set up booths and decorations, mutterings of doubt bounced between neighbors. Police? What do they know about understanding? Fear simmered dangerously beneath the surface, and she knew it all too well. Her peers, dreaded critics, unleashed harsh words, insisting the police were more interested in control than comfort. Conflicted, Jamie felt the crushing weight of disappointment in both her father's authority and her own ideals. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. "You don't understand," she yelled one afternoon, slamming her fist into the lunch table as tears streamed down her face. "It's not just tradition. It's change." Hurt and anger danced in the air like shards of glass. Curiosity flickered in her father's eyes as he searched her face for the little girl he had raised. Desperate for insight and to bridge the gap, Jamie dug into her father's past. Old photographs revealed a young Tom Becker, rebellious and vibrant, eyes bright with dreams. It was a truth hidden behind the badge, a strength fueled by vulnerability. Through his sacrifices and mistakes, Jamie saw seeds of hope sprout in her heart. As the festival dawned, she understood it wasn't about winning everyone over but creating space for dialogue. But as she stood on the brink of the festival with her heart on her sleeve, the sounds of chaos pierced the atmosphere. A loud crash echoed from the back of the crowd, drawing all eyes to dread. Jamie's heart raced, caught between the fear of losing the festival and her father's intense emotional struggle. Would this moment bind them together or break them apart forever? The chaos erupted like a sudden storm. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the square, a reminder of the fragile peace that had gathered for the festival. Jamie's breath hitched as she turned toward the source of the disturbance, her heart a wild animal trapped in a cage. What had started as a hopeful reunion was in danger of unraveling before her eyes. People stared in disbelief. Some held their breath, while others instinctively moved closer to the safety of their families. The laughter that had filled the air was replaced by murmurs, whispers that carried the weight of fear. Eyes darted around, searching for answers, for someone to take charge. Jamie felt a heavy hand grip her shoulder. She turned to see her father, Officer Tom Becker. His face a mask of determination mingled with concern. "Stay here," he urged softly yet firmly. "I'll handle this." "No, Dad, wait," she protested, her voice wavering with desperation. But he was already moving, cutting through the crowd, a figure of authority double-timed by the ambivalence of respect and apprehension. As she watched him reach the commotion, a part of her wanted to call out, to join him in defusing the tension. But the other half of her felt rooted to the spot as if the ground itself were holding her back. She wanted to understand what had brought them to this moment. The commotion was revealed in bits. A young man, his eyes wide with panic, had toppled a stand filled with colorful decorations. He struggled against two other boys, fists raised, words lost in a cacophony of emotion. Jamie's heart twisted. This was not how she envisioned the festival. "Stop! Just stop!" she shouted, forcing her way to the front. But the words were swallowed by the growing tide of fear. Her father's voice cut through, authoritative but calm. "Let us settle down. Let us take a breath." He stepped between the young man and his adversaries, shielding them as though he wore a cape instead of a badge. Jamie saw her father's years as an officer play out in those moments, years of training, years of experience in managing chaos. But could it work here? In this moment, the distrust felt too thick. Just then, the young man jerked back, shifting from agitation to vulnerability. "They don't get it," he shouted, backing away from the crowd, his breath ragged. "No one understands." Jamie caught her breath, realizing the weight of what he had said. Could he be seen as a victim too? The feeling of being unheard echoed in her own heart. People clamored, wanting to know what had caused such an explosion of emotions. "Wait," she began, stepping forward, her heart pounding, and the weight of her father's badge flexing against her chest. "You are right. We have been lost, but we're all trying to find our way together." A hush fell. The boy's anger flickered, then faded into confusion as he processed those words, hoping for connection over conflict. Would he see that they were both just trying to navigate a town burdened with misunderstandings? The air crackled with anticipation. Jamie felt like they were all held in suspense, waiting for this pivotal moment to shift the power dynamics in the air. "Are you ready to talk?" Jamie continued, heart in her throat. But before the young man could respond, a shout erupted from the opposite side of the crowd, drawing attention away once more. "They're coming." Fear gripped the air again, and Jamie realized this was far from over. As the crowd stirred with anxiety and voices rose, she braced herself for what might happen next. Would she find a way to unite the town before fear, even fear of each other, took over completely? The uncertainty loomed large, each heartbeat echoing like a countdown to a confrontation. Would they find the courage to bridge the divides? Or would this festival end in chaos? Jamie's heart raced as the shout hung in the air, heavy with dread. "They're coming." The words seemed to echo through the square, a chilling reminder that the tension wasn't her only concern now. It mixed with the palpable anxiety of the crowd, igniting a new wave of fear, a fire that threatened to consume them all. "Who's coming?" she shouted back, trying to pierce through the buzz of worried voices. But nobody answered. Instead, people turned, eyes wide, faces a mosaic of confusion and concern. She felt a tightening in her chest, a desperate urge to take control before this gathered storm worsened. Her father shouted orders, but Jamie could hardly focus on him. Something was stirring at the edge of the square, just out of view. A group, their shadows dark against the golden festival lights, began to materialize in the distance. The way they moved was unsettling, urgent, almost chaotic. "Everyone, stay calm," Officer Becker urged, his voice steady but strained. He turned to address the crowd, hands raised, as if to keep the surging tide of fear at bay. Jamie felt a swell of urgency. She had to help diffuse this. She stepped closer to her father, trying to channel her own courage into the atmosphere. "Can we just," she started, her voice tighter than she intended. "Can we just breathe? We can face this together." But the crowd shifted. Panic rippled through them like a wave. Someone shouted, "They're trouble. They'll ruin everything." Jamie's eyes widened. "No, just," but the words caught in her throat. That pulse of fear was growing, and she felt it brush past her like a cold gust of wind. Was it possible that the very people they feared could also be hurting? The approaching group began to emerge from the shadows, more defined now. Jamie squinted, her heart pounding louder than the drumming in her ears. They weren't menacing. Rather, they looked lost, bewildered. Each face told a story of frustration mingled with fear, just like the boy who had shouted before. "Dad, look!" Jamie shouted, her voice rising with a sudden hope. "They might need our help." Every ounce of doubt flashed in her father's eyes momentarily before duty kicked in. "Stay back, Jamie. We don't know what they want." But the heart of Jamie's conviction surged. "No, we need to find out." She stepped toward the edge of the crowd, her arms raised. "We don't have to fight each other. Please just stop for a moment." The group halted a few yards away, breathing heavy. At that moment, one of the figures stepped forward, a young woman, her hair wild and tangled, eyes glinting with determination. "We're not here to fight," she said, surprising even herself with how steady her voice sounded. "We just want to be heard." Jamie's resolve surged. They were all navigating a shared heartache. "Then let us talk," she urged, her own voice echoing with a mixture of fear and open-heartedness. "Let us hear you out." But before they could draw any closer, a resonant voice blasted through the air, commanding attention like a sudden thunderclap. "Back away. Everyone back away." The atmosphere shifted again. Instinctively, Jamie turned to face the source of the voice, her stomach flipping. Fear was rippling through the crowd once more. "Anyone who moves forward will be arrested." The people scattered, a cacophony taking hold once more, and Jamie felt panic clawing at her chest. Was this truly where they were headed? Just when she thought they might bridge the gaps, now it seemed like the divisions were widening. And in that critical moment, she realized that finding common ground might not be enough. As she caught sight of her father standing firm, facing the threat, she wondered, could anyone stand against the storm brewing in their hearts and the world outside? Before she could grasp the answer, another figure emerged, raising a hand, and a hush fell over the frightened crowd. Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that this night was far from over. What would happen next? The silence following the raised hand was almost deafening. Jamie's heart thumped as she watched the new figure step forward. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, with an air of calm that contrasted sharply against the anxiety bubbling in the square. His dark hair was tousled, but there was a warmth in his eyes that cut through the thick tension hanging over them. "Please, everyone," he said, his voice a low rumble that commanded attention. "I know this is frightening, but we're not here to cause trouble. We want to share our stories, to connect." With every word, Jamie felt a flicker of hope reignite inside her, urging her forward. This man could be the bridge they needed, and she was determined not to let fear cage her any longer. "Listen to him," she called out, raising her arms in an attempt to soothe the crowd. "We have to try." But many remained skeptical, faces still tense with unease. The young woman from before stepped up beside the man, her voice steady. "We're all scared. We're all looking for understanding, just like you. Nobody wants a fight." Jamie wished she could weave a thread of calm that would pull everyone closer together, smooth out the worry creasing their brows. She didn't want to be just a voice crying out into the void. "What's stopping us from finding common ground? Just talk to us." A murmur of agreement rippled through some, but doubt lingered in others, keeping them rooted to their spots. Jamie caught sight of her father, his jaw set tight, worry etched across his face. She had seen that look before during hard times, when the weight of responsibility felt unbearable. She knew he was just trying to protect her, but this wasn't the path to safety. "Please," she pleaded with him, stepping closer. "This is our chance. We can't let fear run our lives anymore." Her father's eyes flickered to the approaching group, then back to her. There was a long pause, heavy with unspoken thoughts, before he finally sighed. "Okay, Jamie, just be careful." Relief flooded through her as she turned back to the group. The man took a step closer, relief shining in his eyes as he saw the crowd soften just slightly. "Thank you," he said softly. "We understand you might be angry. We're angry too, but we have the chance to change things together." Someone in the crowd shouted, "How can we be sure you're not lying?" And just like that, the fragile truce began to wobble again. Because we've experienced the hurt. We've been pushed aside. Just like you have, the woman answered, a hint of sorrow in her voice. But we're all human. We're all in this together. Just then, a loud snap echoed through the air. Jamie's heart sank as she spun around to find the source. A police officer stood with an unyielding stance, shaking his head. Enough! Stand down! Jamie felt as if her heart was being squeezed in a vice. Hot tears pricked at her eyes. The fear was crashing over them once more. No! She shouted, desperation ripping through her. If we don't take a step, this cycle will never end. The group of newcomers held firm, their expressions a mixture of fear and determination. Jamie could feel the invisible line splitting the square. It would take just one step forward to change everything. She took a breath, steeling herself to shout again. The man raised his hand once more, his face set with intent. Everyone, let us share our truth. That's how we begin. But just as tension began to loosen its grip, another voice rang out, more urgent and threatening this time. You'll regret this. All of you. The crowd gasped. Jamie's heart raced. Who else was coming? And how long would they wait to disrupt a moment of potential unity? Could fear claim victory one more time? The figure stepped forward, face shadowed, yet every bit as intimidating as the threat implied. Could Jamie find the courage to push through the fear? Would anyone be able to silence the voice of destruction that loomed ever closer? The crowd was frozen in place, a collective breath held tight in their chests. The shadowed figure stepped into the faint light flickering from the nearby street lamps. Jamie squinted, desperately trying to discern the expression hidden in the folds of the figure's hood. A shiver of dread rolled down her spine. Who was this new player in their fragile moment of hope? Do you think they really care about you? The figure's voice hissed, dripping with disdain. They're here to take everything you have. This is your land. Don't let these intruders fool you. His words cut through the gathered people like a knife, sowing seeds of doubt that were already lurking in the deeper corners of their minds. Jamie felt her own resolve waver. It was as if he had somehow dialed into their greatest fears and amplified them. She glanced at the newcomers beside her, the man and the woman who had so bravely stood for understanding. Their faces were masked with concern, eyes flickering with uncertainty. No, we can't allow this to happen. Jamie shouted, her voice louder, almost desperate. We need to stay united. We can't fight one another. A ripple of uncertainty moved through the crowd. More and more people looked between Jamie, the man, and the shadowy figure. There was an undeniable tension thick in the air as they weighed their options timidly. They feared the unknown but hesitated to retreat into a familiar past of blame and anger. What are you afraid of, really? Jamie pressed, taking a step forward as the figure still loomed. You say they're intruders, but aren't we all searching for a place to belong? The shadowed figure's lip curled in annoyance. You think they'll listen to your pleas? The time for words has passed. It's time to take back what is yours before it's too late. That only wrapped tighter the chains of fear already tightened around her heart. Jamie felt tears sliding down her cheeks, stinging with urgency. She was scared, too scared of the disdain, scared of the chaos that could unfold. But she also knew something essential. Fear was food for more fear, and anger was a flame igniting everything in sight. In that moment, the man beside her took a deep breath, his broad shoulders relaxing, finding that quiet strength within himself. We can stand here shouting threats, or we can take a leap into the unknown together, he said, his voice resolute, carrying a grace that belied the turmoil around them. Jamie felt the energy in the square shift slightly toward him, the crowd leaning in, deliberate and listening. Will you find the courage to share your stories? He continued. We are not so different. We all have our wounds. That makes us a family, not enemies. Let us heal. But the shadowed figure stepped closer, determination in his stride. You'll all regret this. History has taught us that trust is a weapon. Use it wisely, or you'll be the ones to fall. And just like that, the hopeful whispers began to wane again, swallowed by fear. They were losing this chance to understand each other, to build something new. Suddenly, out of that fearful uncertainty, a girl's voice broke through. She was young, perhaps only a few years younger than Jamie. "I believe we're stronger together." The girl stepped forward, her chin trembling but her spirit unyielding. "I want to know your story." That singular expression of courage ignited a small flame in Jamie's heart. Hope rushed back through her veins, and she took a deep breath. If one voice could rise, couldn't they all? With that thought, Jamie took another step toward the emotion-laden face of the shadowy figure. "We refuse to let fear silence us any longer. The world needs us to be brave." What would happen next? Would the crowd stand together and dismantle the wall of fear? And what secrets lay hidden in the shadows, waiting for a chance to see the light? Indecision hung heavy in the air. The shadowy figure's gaze remained fixed on Jamie, eyes hidden yet burning with a fierce intensity. The crowd shifted restlessly, uncertainty sparking whispers that flickered like the surrounding streetlights. "Let them know who we are," the woman beside Jamie pleaded, her voice echoing the plea for unity. "We can't let lies tear us apart." Jamie turned to the newcomers, and in that moment the energy changed. Hope flooded back like a tide. "Right, we can share," she said, grasping onto the familiar lifeline. "We can show them that unity isn't a myth." More people stepped closer to the front, their faces ignited with determination. Jamie could see the young girl, emboldened by the warmth that was slowly growing, reach for another hand in the crowd. It was a simple gesture, yet it felt monumental. One by one, people began to connect, linking arms, hands, spirits. "I remember when I first came here," a voice chimed from the back. It was an elder man, his voice trembling as the memories flowed. "I was lost, the same fears you feel. All of us have faced something," another called out. "Let us speak. Let us help each other." Jamie felt the weight of history shift. Layer by layer, the invisible walls started to crumble. The shadows began to flicker and fade, revealed by the genuine stories of family, loss, and strength. Tears were shared, hearts were lifted, and laughter intermingled with those tears. As the testimony swirled around her, Jamie's heart beat louder. Each tale illuminated deep wounds but also the power of healing. Hope encircled them, bringing warmth even in the chill of uncertainty. The shadowy figure seemed to shrink, as if the light of their stories pushed him back, away from the focal point of fear. He was no longer a voice that captivated them, a taker, but merely an outline in the growing light. Together, the man declared, standing taller, "Our stories are our strength. We speak for the silenced. We rise for the fallen. We stand for each other." The crowd erupted, cheers filled the square, mingled with calls of unity. "Let us keep going. Let us not stop here." But just as the air pulsed with energy, the shadowy figure stirred, a low chuckle escaping him. "You think this changes anything?" His voice dripped with mocking disbelief. "Your words can't rewrite the past. Anger and hostility will always return." But Jamie felt different. Sure, the figure's words, though coated in bitterness, rang with a truth. Trust was delicate. Yet she remained focused, knowing that trust was also a choice, a risk worth taking. Through the ruckus, she took a shaky breath and shouted, "Maybe the past cannot be changed, but we can build a new future, one where our stories don't divide us." As if sparked by her words, smaller voices began to rise, merging into an echo of resolve. The crowd was ready, willing to share, to listen, and to heal. Just when it seemed they had enough strength to face the shadow and shift the tide, an explosion rocked the evening air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. What was that? Someone gasped, tension crackling through the crowd again. Jamie's heart raced. Fear clawed at the edges once more. As heads turned to the shadows from where the sound emanated, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of greater trials ahead. Could their newfound unity withstand whatever storm was brewing? Could they hold onto their light when darkness threatened to engulf them? The answer hung in the air like the smoke from the blast, a stark reminder that they needed to stay strong. Now more than ever. The crowd froze, stunned into silence. Jamie could feel the tremors still resonating beneath her feet as urgency flashed in the eyes around her. It was as if time froze, and in that instant, fear ran thick. She scanned the faces, searching for signs of panic or courage. The tension was palpable, each heartbeat echoing in her ears. "Stay together!" someone shouted, breaking the paralysis. It was the elder man, stepping forward into the uncertain night, his voice grounding. "We've come too far to let fear scatter us now." The words sparked something in Jamie. She locked eyes with the woman beside her, who gave a reassuring nod. "We need to face this together," Jamie whispered, her tone a mix of resolve and fear. With each word she spoke, she felt the tension lessen just a little, a flicker of hope igniting again. Suddenly, another explosion rang out, closer this time. It was a blinding flash, lighting up the darkness. The crowd gasped collectively, heads swiveling toward the direction of the sound. Jamie's heart was in her throat. Would they run? Would they stand firm? "Let us move," she called out, instinctively leading the charge. "We need to find the source and protect each other." That first step out of hesitation felt monumental, and she felt a rush of adrenaline as they moved forward. Arms linked for support, Jamie caught glimpses of the chaos beginning to unfold. Shadows darted between the buildings, and the murmurs of the crowd turned from hopeful chants to whispers of fear. But there was also something new, a fierce determination. The crowd was not just trapped in fear. They were moving, driving a collective pulse forward. "This way," Jamie directed, spotting an alley that led deeper into the heart of the chaos. The unexpected noise swelled. The air crackled with the anxiety of the unknown. But there was a spark of something greater, a shared longing for safety, for unity. They reached the alley, and suddenly all conversation halted. Jamie peered into the dim glow reflecting off the scattered debris. The remnants of shattered glass glistened like stars against the concrete. Then, from the back of the alley, a flickering light emerged, revealing the figure of a young boy fumbling with a device. Panic flooded her chest. Was he trying to set off another explosion? Fear for him gripped her heart. But as she drew closer, she saw the boy's face was not one of malice. His wide, terrified eyes mirrored her own chaos. "I didn't mean to," he cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I was just scared. They told me to do it. That's not what we're about." Jamie stepped closer, her heart racing, her instinct to comfort overcoming the wild rush of fear. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. We can help you. You can help us." The boy hesitated, glancing at the unnerving shadows behind him, as if they might consume him. But in that moment, Jamie reached out her hand, awe and trepidation mingling in the air. It was an offering of trust amidst chaos, a singular act that could pull them back from the brink. "Come with us," she pleaded gently, her voice cutting through the noise. The crowd began to surge closer, a protective barrier forming behind her, united in this singular focus. But as the boyish hand slipped into hers, a deep rumble echoed once again, louder this time. The ground shivered, and there was an impossible weight pressing down. "What's happening?" someone shouted, panic rising anew. With the shadows lurking ever closer and questions mounting, Jamie had to wonder, could this fragile unity survive another threat? How many more would they face before the night ended? As the air thickened with uncertainty, a sense of urgency ignited within her. Could she hold the light for them all? When the next explosion came, a guttural roar that shook the very foundations of their resolve. Jamie couldn't help but wonder, was this their moment to rise, or the very defining moment of their potential downfall? Heat surged through Jamie as the ground quaked beneath them, hearts pounding in unison like a war drum. Around her, faces twisted in fear, eyes wide in disbelief. She couldn't let them shatter now, not when they had taken such a brave step together. "Focus," she shouted, her voice breaking through the rising tide of panic. "We need to protect each other. Let us move." The boy's hand trembled in hers, but she could feel a flicker of strength in his grip as he stepped closer to the crowd, held up by the collective energy. Together, they turned to face the shadows lurking in the darkness as they pressed deeper into the alley. Jamie could see people exchanging glances, weighing their options. Some still held fear, but there was a gradual shift, fingers uncurling, fists clenching in resolve. This was their moment. They had a choice. What do we do now? One woman asked, her voice trembling. Jamie could see desperation weighing on everyone's hearts, their minds racing for a plan. Together, we move forward, Jamie said, trying to project confidence. We need to find a way to safety. I believe there's a way out of this. Another explosion echoed in the distance, the vibrations rattling the glass around them. They flinched but didn't break apart. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for each other. Look, the elder man yelled, pointing down the alley where a flicker of light danced. It's a fire, Jamie said, her eyes narrowing. But it could be a signal or a hazard. The boy pressed closer to her side, his breaths uneven. What if it's danger? Then we will face it together, she said, squeezing his hand reassuringly. It was their first collective breath of hope, a shared step into the unknown. They moved as one, each person's courage bolstering the next as they neared the source of the light. They realized it was an old lantern, flickering weakly against the darkness. Jamie could hardly believe it. In the midst of chaos, a sign of life still lingered. Keep moving, she urged. But her heart raced with a new thought. What if this fire was their last hope? Could it lead them to safety, or further into peril? The crowd swirled around her, some bracing themselves, others stealing glances at the flickering beacon. Jamie knew that the moment held power. They could choose to act, unleash their fears upon the night, or cling to the light as they got closer. Jamie felt the air shift. Was it the heat of the fire or the intensity of their fear? Each heartbeat thudded louder. The shadows grew nearer, looming like dark specters ready to ensnare them. Are you ready? She whispered, half for her own reassurance. She turned to face the boy again, desperation etched into his young features. Would he stand strong beside her? I'm ready, he replied, surprising even himself. With one final breath to steel herself, Jamie took a step towards the light, the crowd trailing behind her. She was no longer just a girl trying to help. In that moment, she was a leader, a beacon of hope. But just as the light enveloped them, a deafening roar erupted from behind, cutting through the darkness like a jagged knife. It wasn't just chaos anymore. It was something darker, something that bore down on them with fury. What is that? Someone screamed. As Jamie turned, dread settling in her gut, she realized they would have to choose again. Would they fight or would they run? And whatever they chose, it could change everything. With every ounce of courage flowing through her, Jamie steeled herself for the storm ahead. Then, amidst the smoke and shadows, a familiar face emerged, eyes filled with determination and a promise. The kind of resolve that could turn the tide. Jamie, the voice called out, shredding through the looming darkness. We're not done yet. But even as she felt the spark of recognition, she couldn't shake off the anxious dread that settled in her heart. One question lingered at the edge of her mind. Could this be the ally she needed, or another betrayal waiting to unfold? Jamie squinted, trying to focus on the face emerging through the smoke. Heart racing, she took a step closer, adrenaline surging through her as the roar faded into a haunting echo. Every instinct warned her to be cautious, yet the flicker of hope ignited a fire in her belly. Alex, she called, voice trembling between relief and uncertainty. The boy beside her tightened his grip, eyes wide with confusion. You know him? Yes, but Jamie faltered. Alex had been one of the voices in their small community, a beacon of light in times of despair. But trust was a fragile thing now, easily shattered in moments like these. Everyone hold on, Alex shouted, gesturing them forward. I'm here to lead you to safety. We need to move now. His eyes darted around, scanning the dark corners of the alley. Without waiting, Jamie stepped into the chaos. What happened? What's going on out there? He hesitated, his brow furrowing. There was an attack, people scattered in all directions. I thought we'd lost you, his voice cracked. There was fear and relief battling within him, just as it was in Jamie's heart. Suddenly, a newer sound cut through the rumble of chaos, a menacing growl that curled around them. Jamie shivered, terror washing over her. We can't linger. If we wait, we could be trapped. Let us go, Alex urged, his tone leaving no room for doubt. This was their only chance as they pushed through the crowd. Jamie felt the raw pulse of humanity around her. Fear mingled with determination. She could practically taste the urgency in the air. Each face shone with a shared will to survive. Moving swiftly through the narrow alley, whispers painted the atmosphere, a mix of remembered doubts and newfound hopes. Jamie cast a quick glance back. The cracks of darkness seemed to stretch and swell behind them, waiting to engulf their escape. Poor lighting flickered overhead like an omen. Just ahead, the alley opened into a wider space, an old courtyard bathed in ghostly light from street lamps, casting eerie shadows that danced like frightened phantoms. What next? One woman asked, her voice betraying her resolve. Anxiety clouded her eyes. We regroup here, Alex shouted, stepping ahead to rally the group. Everybody, gather up. Jamie looked around. They formed a circle, knees pressed together, breaths unsteady. Together, they manifested a quiet strength, held together by something greater than mere survival. Was it hope or desperation? Listen, Jamie said, her heart thundering as she spoke. We have to trust each other. We need a plan. We can't just keep running. Are we really safe here? An elder man piped up, his voice trembling. No. Alex shook his head. But there may be a way to defend ourselves. Before the smoke hit, I saw something, a stockpile of supplies in that building. He pointed to an old warehouse just across the courtyard. What if it's crawling with those things? Someone else countered, glancing nervously over their shoulders. We don't know what's ahead, Jamie shot back. But if we just stand here, we're making ourselves easy targets. There's a chance we have to take. A murmured agreement rippled through the group. Jamie felt a spark of unity, growing brighter among the darkness, threatening to swallow them whole. Okay, Alex said, glancing at Jamie, determination shimmering in his eyes. We do this together. If we go strong. Everyone ready? With a synchronized nod, they prepared to take their next step. Yet a chilling silence fell upon them. The growl returned, more distinct and terrifying than before. Jamie's heart sank as shadows moved just outside the edge of their circle. What is that? She whispered, dread wrapping its icy fingers around her heart. And then, from the darkness, two piercing eyes locked onto hers, glowing with an unnatural hunger. Move! Alex yelled, breaking the spell of paralyzing fear. But as they turned to run, Jamie's heart raced with dread. Would this be the moment they had all been waiting for? Or the moment everything fell apart? Would they escape the night? Or was this the beginning of a new terror? The chaos of that night had turned the township of Maplewood into an echo chamber of fear and uncertainty. Yet, as Jamie stood face to face with the glowing eyes of what they all feared most, one singular thought crashed through the cacophony in her mind. No more. Together, Jamie shouted. The word burst forth like a balloon filled with hope, mingling in the air with the sharp tang of apprehension. She wasn't just thinking of survival anymore. She was thinking of the heart of her town, of her father, of the boy at her side who had reminded her that fear could be faced together. Now, she screamed again, and they moved in unison, an unshakable front. As they sprinted towards the shadow, the flickering lantern guided them. It transformed from a mere glow into a beacon, igniting a fire of unity in Jamie's heart. The darkness loomed, swirling like a fierce wind, seeking to extinguish that light. But they were moving forward, their hearts beating as one, hands entwined, bolstered by a collective strength. Into the warehouse, Alex directed, his voice firm and steady. They barreled through the wide entrance, releasing their fears with each step. Inside, the old storage facility held remnants of the town's past, dull crates and rusty tools, but what mattered most was the energy swirled among them. They felt more than people. They were a community transformed, woven together in their shared struggle. The sound of something heavy crashing against the door pulled them back to reality. There was no time to waste. Help me find anything we can use to defend ourselves. Jamie shouted, her voice rising above the din. Hands flew everywhere, digging through forgotten items, revealing memories of laughter and resilience. They uncovered old sports gear, boxes of tools, and even kitchen supplies. Each discovery fueled their resolve. They weren't just scavenging. They were collecting pieces of what once made Maplewood thrive. Over here, someone called, hoisting a makeshift barricade of heavy crates. The group rallied, positioning everything they could find against the door, each thump matching their racing hearts. They could hear it outside, a low growl echoing with menace. "Jamie, what now?" Alex asked breathlessly. His eyes were wide with urgency, but something else flickered in them, a flicker of faith. "We hold this together," she asserted, her voice steady. "If we have to face what's outside, we do it united." Each word felt like a brick in the wall they were building together. "On my count," Alex said. 3, 2, 1. And in unison, they flung the door open, an explosion of collective energy surging as they squared their shoulders to face the darkness head-on. The creature that loomed tried to force its way in, its glowing eyes wild with hunger, but it hesitated as it faced a united force of empathy and resilience. "Stop!" Jamie yelled, her heart thudding but her voice strong. "We don't want to fight. We want to understand." The creature's growl rumbled. It was more than a beast. It pulsed with a rawness of fear. In its reflection, Jamie saw not just terror but a mirror of the emotions coursing through her town, fear that had woven itself into the fabric of their lives. "Everyone," Jamie called urgently. "This is our moment. We show it we care." They moved forward, arms linked. Slowly, the gatherings roared with an encouraging cry of solidarity. As they extended their hands, Jamie could see the creature pause, uncertainty flickering in its eyes. "What do we do?" someone whispered. "It's dangerous." "No," Jamie countered. "The danger is in misunderstanding. We have to reach out to it to break this cycle." With one giant step, she moved closer to the beast, her heart pounding wildly. "We are afraid too," she shouted, her voice ringing with emotion. "We want to connect, to bridge our hearts instead of building walls. Can you feel that?" The creature's eyes softened, confusion mingling with wariness. It stepped back, feebly testing the barriers that had held it in place. Jamie could feel the collective breath of the group as they awaited its response. In that electric moment of connection, the shadows began to shift. The fear eased as clarity replaced dread. "You're not alone," Jamie whispered. "We want to help you. Just as we all have the right to be heard, so do you." One tentative step, then another. Jamie extended her hand further. "Let us heal together." The crowd held its breath. A pulsating silence filled the space between them. Every heartbeat echoed with uncertainty, but beneath it lay something profound: hope. Slowly, the creature lowered its head until the tension stretched to a breaking point. Then, with a soft shift in energy, something transformed in the air. It stepped forward, nudging Jamie's outstretched hand. A wave of emotion washed over them. Hope returned stronger than before, lifting fear away like mist in the morning light. They were no longer opponents trapped in a cycle of dread. They were a community, willing to embrace the unknown together. From that moment forward, Jamie understood Maplewood would heal, not just from destruction but by recognizing their shared struggles and wounds. They would become stronger, weaving stories of transformation into the very fabric of their lives. As dawn broke, the light spilled across Maplewood in brilliant hues, illuminating the hearts that once felt fractured. Laughter echoed into the streets where fear had once ruled, united by hope and healing. "Tell me what you see," Jamie whispered to her father, a radiant smile brightening her face. "I see a brighter future," he replied, eyes glistening as he embraced her. "And I see you, Jamie, who you've become." She grinned, her father's words igniting the fire within. They would continue this journey together through shared purpose, understanding, and love. Maplewood was transforming, not merely surviving but thriving under the light of their collective humanity. As Jamie looked around at her friends and neighbors, she felt a swelling of pride. They stood not in fear but in anticipation of the new chapter ahead. They were family, guided by their stories, and each step was a testament to what it meant to bridge divisions. So now, as this incredible journey reaches its conclusion, remember, you need to subscribe now to follow the path of hope and transformation. Leave a like now to nourish this journey into more hearts. Comment your feelings about this inspiring story. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this because together we can all rise. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support for our community.